What's up, movie world? We've just seen Total Recall. And this is the pre-spoiler movie review segment where we're just gonna tell you how we feel.
Movie preview critic. Open your mind to a generic, boring, thoughtless action movie.
I want to experience an intelligent, thought-provoking...
Not here! Movie preview critic.
I see 2012. A remake that's purely action.
Purely action. Forget what you have known.
Turn off your mind to me.
What is real?
What is real? Yeah. That you just paid $11 for this thing and
real.
got jack from it.
That's
what's real.
That's what's real. Yeah.
We just got, we got quadoed up the...
I was expecting like fun, action, awesomeness, but also crazy sci-fi mind.
Yeah.
Mind was that there was no mind.
That's the ultimate.
That's the ultimate mind.
Beautiful to look at, amazing in its scope. It really brings it up. It kind of explores the world more, and all the effects, all the talented people involved in bringing the thing into reality.
Yeah,
so well done.
Oh, except for Colin Farrell, who is the most boring, charisma-less action lead of all time.
Colin Farrell versus who's the guy in Avatar and Clash of the Titans?
Right, for a boring off?
Boring off. That's the new movie. Total Recall, what are you looking for? You want better effects than the first one, but you want mind-bending story like the first one.
Exactly. What is real? That's how they're advertising it. As a mind, there's no bending of anything.
Yeah.
No.
Bending of the arm to give the money
that's the bending
pay
of
for
the
this.
Arm. So you know what? We're going to get into it, but I'll say right now, StoryCorp, consider this a divorce. Boom! Get your ass to the red box. You, another full-price movie.
You are a shadow of your former self.
No
before we get into specifics, you had a positive reaction to the preview because it was promising at least to enhance the special effects and to build a bigger world.
Right, and in that sense it did. The most enjoyable part of the movie, and I was saying this to you, is that I almost wished it was in 3D, because the world they created, even though the surface of the colony was a total Blade Runner knockoff, where everyone has parasols and it's all Asian for whatever reason, it's raining all the time, but the rest of it is this really cool, multi-layered, and there's all the magnet cars, and all the chase scenes. The director is the guy that did all the Underworld series and everything. Really well directed. I mean, you were saying it's all very reminiscent of the Jason Bourne stuff, where just running across rooftops. It's got that parkour feeling of jumping from place to place and then just diving through awnings and stuff. All the different levels of the buildings, and then the different levels in the car chase scene, when you shut off the magnets and they dropped and then it flattened the car.
Very cool idea.
Yeah, the elevators that were going back and forth, all that stuff. I really enjoyed that part of the movie.
Actually, so did I. Going back, if you watch Total Recall, which for myself, I've seen it at least 50 times.
Right.
If I counted, I actually was able to do the 3D hologram mental recall they did in here. It probably would be closer to 100. Going back now, the effects have definitely aged. Now, if we're talking about the story is still superior in the first movie.
Well, because they chickened out in this one. They totally pushed out on trying to make it all challenging for the viewer. The hook of it is that Philip K. Dick, what is real, what is recall? That's how they marketed this one. And they lied. At no point is there really any evidence that this is anything but reality. It never challenges us. There's so many separate areas. In the first movie, we see all these little clues, like they're loading up the program, like, a blue sky on Mars, and how does it end? The blue sky on Mars. They're loading up, we're doing aliens now, and we see the actual visuals of what we see later in the movie with the alien reactor. This dream girl is the girl we see later on.
And she's real. I dreamed about her first.
Do you hear yourself, Mr. Quaid? She's real because you dreamed about her.
That's a good impersonation.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So
that actor whose name we don't remember, but has been in plenty of things.
A ton of stuff in the late '80s, early '90s. And then, in the first one, you see him go under. He is in the machine. They start to count backwards, and he's about to fall asleep. When it cuts away.
Right.
And then we see the comeback.
Then chaos.
This one, it's very clear he never gets even close to going in the machine.
Right.
It's not even left up for discussion.
Yeah.
And then the second part, which pissed me off, is one of my favorite scenes in the first one is that scene with that doctor, where it's Schwarzenegger alone in the hotel room.
Right.
The doctor knocks on the door, and it's just him very quiet in the hotel room having that conversation. And then they bring Sharon Stone in. But again, it's all played very quietly. First of all, it's the doctor from the recall ads. They play it with a great line of dialogue, which is, come on, Mr. Quaid, like, what's real? That you're a construction worker that was bored with his life is having a paranoid schizoid embolism, or that you're a secret agent and you're actually on the run from Mars and the whole
world conspiracy
all centered around you.
Yeah.
Which totally, like, makes you stop and, like, yeah, that is incredibly far-fetched and ridiculous. It's only when he shoots the guy that then the wall blows up and then the army comes in.
Right.
You know, it's only when that shift in reality happens. Here, there's no reason for us to believe otherwise because the whole army is already there holding him hostage.
The first movie did such a great job of making us believe that it's either reality or it's not, and we don't know if he's crazy or if he's in the dream. And so when that key scene in the middle of the movie comes up, basically that actor is talking to us too. Like, hey, are we also believing along with Doug Quaid that this is a reality or it's really a dream? So he's kind of trying to bring us out of the recall.
There's arguments to be made on both sides. You really never settle either way. And in the remake, they really dumb it down and they really give you no evidence except for at the very, very end. He's like coming out of his dream, or he's waking up after being knocked unconscious.
And then there's like the echoes of the voices.
Right, but then he sees the recall ad. Other than that, there is no evidence whatsoever that anything that's happening is other than he's a super secret agent. And in the first one, it's not that. When he kills the doctor in the first one in the hotel room, it's because he points the gun at his head, which he doesn't do the Bokeem Woodbine. Right. And he says, like, okay, so if it's a dream, I can just kill you, no problem. And it's like, oh, you could do that. There'd be no effect on me, Mr. Quaid. But the
results to you would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
In your mind, I would be dead.
You and Quaid would be bosom buddies.
Yeah. And that'll set off a chain reactions. First you'll be this, and then literally that's what happens in the film.
That's what happens in the plot.
And it makes you kind of think, well, okay, was this real or not?
Right. So the reason he kills him in the first one is because he sees the bead of sweat that goes down the doctor's forehead. Because that tells him, okay, why would he be nervous if it wasn't really about, like, with a gun to his head?
Right.
And that's how he kills him. In this one, he sees a tear go down
Jessica Biel's face because at that point, she just read the script. One thing I like to do is always ask myself, whenever moments in a movie are really cheesy or unmotivated, I want to go behind the scenes and before the camera turned on, what did the director say was the motivation for that character? Here's the entire script for this film, and this is what it's going to look like. And no, you can't go back to Seventh Heaven.
So why would that be a signal? Because if it isn't his dream, then, yeah, of course she would have a tear. Again, the threatening for making him shoot her versus just swallowing the red pill, which is in the first one, which Matrix totally ripped off. Everything is ripped off Total Recall.
A lot of cool ideas with like the phone in the hand, you put up to the glass.
And I did like all the little sci-fi elements of the future world. I love the phone in the hand. I love the really cool, like, give us eyes and they shoot the exploding round that like explodes out all the little mini cameras.
Right.
Like, that was super cool. I dug that stuff.
One of the big things I know for myself going into any sci-fi film is give me some cool ideas. Or like watching a James Bond movie. Okay, Q, give us the next cool invention. So if it's Minority Report, I want to see the cool hologram screen and the cars in that one. And this guy obviously has an influence of that. It's almost like the writers and creators of this version of Total Recall just sat around a table and said, what are some action sequences that have been done in other movies? How can we do them better or different? What are some things we haven't seen before? And let's just put all that together and really blow people away with the set pieces. And we're just going to have the dialogue and the characters just kind of get to these points that we need them to get to. And nothing is created because of what the characters are going through. In the original movie, that's why I care about Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's why the fight sequences, even when Cohagen, give those people air, that actually makes me care. And like, even though it's Arnold making a normal line become an Arnoldism,
right?
If you had, let's say, a more dramatic actor saying, Cohagen, give those people air, it would still affect you because you know that these people are going to die and that Cohagen's
you've got the little dwarf
bastard.
Prostitute struggling for air.
We cut to the dwarf prostitute, we cut to the vagina face guy.
Right.
And we see it's been personalized.
Yes.
And we see the effects of Cohagen's greed and his power madness. And now we're motivated more for Quaid to start the reactor and to save these people. Here we don't get the bigger picture in terms of the colony people. This was absolutely emotionless. What is the motivation for Kate Beckinsale to want to kill him? In the first one, Richter wants to kill him what?
Well, she's Sharon Stone's husband or boyfriend or whatever. And so he's got personal motivation. Schwarzenegger was his wife.
And you get his buddies like, I wouldn't want a guy like Quaid boning my wife. And so
you saying she liked it? No, sure she
hated every minute of it.
She is so dead set on killing this guy.
Why?
That she got him. It is why exactly why. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, I mean, she puts on her T-1000
She
Terminator 3 hottie
like
kind
a
of
super hot Terminator the entire movie. Like
Yeah.
it's just constantly chasing after them, never like things are exploding, and
Right.
she's still coming through and everything.
And there were some shots when like her look of determination, I'm like, oh, I'm kind of intimidated by her right now.
Yeah, but she's a badass.
So she had it going on, but what was totally missing was any justification for why she would want to defy Cohagen and why she's so bent on destroying this guy.
Other than like she wants to defy him because he's dangerous, I guess. He's super dangerous, and then like, oh, the Great Hauser, we heard about you, but then
Everyone talked about you, but I'm a better spy than you. Or like,
why is she choosing to take it personally though? That doesn't make any sense.
One of the great things that the first Total Recall did was each character that you meet, even if it's Richter's sidekick guy with the glasses, they all had a personality, and they all had like these little quirky things. You had Benny the cab driver. I got 5 kids to feed.
So is it really a surprise that so many of the characters in this movie are robots?
Yeah.
Are personality
Literally robots.
Literally robots that you don't need to have a personality for.
Starting with the main actor. He's like Sam Worthington. Like, I can't remember a memorable character,
Line,
a
anything.
line.
Like, say Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's not a great actor,
Right.
but he is such a larger-than-life character. Just you remember everything about his
Right.
movies.
Well, and I'm telling you, I think Total Recall is one of his best characters ever because, Lori, I felt like I was meant to do something more than this.
Right.
You know, and he tells you on Quaid being this guy who feels small, even though he's super big and like built up.
Yeah.
And he wants
banging
to
Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
For Colin Farrell, it seems like his motivation is he keeps having these nightmares.
Yeah.
That's his motivation. It seems like that's what his. I mean, we get less of like he's fed up with his life.
One of the things that is always objection, Your Honor, is that movies during the summer shouldn't have any brains or just set pieces just to have fun and stuff, right? And the original Total Recall proves that opposite of that.
Right.
That if you can have great writers, which was Ron Shusett and Dan O'Bannon,
Who did Alien?
you have experienced screenwriters. You know, they know what they're doing. It's based on a short story from a great writer. They obviously fleshed it out and all that. But when you come to this version of the film, 2012, oh, well, there's nothing really to say with it, or there's no ideas to introduce. One of the biggest things, what is real? And one of the viral marketing things that was going on with this was live the life that you don't have the opportunity to live today. So be the rock star, be the movie star, be the Olympian. Today, more than ever, aren't we more obsessed with kind of becoming our own celebrity?
And there's so much they could have taken with that. And instead, they chose to make the central question of identity not what is real and what isn't, but am I my memories or am I my action? And even when they go to see the terrorist leader, who actually just turns out, for whatever reason, like in the first one, you buy that he's this Yoda-like sage.
Legendary Quado guy, who is he?
Because he's this little mutant thing that lives in the guy's stomach.
Which is a total super surprise
Yeah.
and a great idea, right?
Yeah.
Like, who saw that coming?
Not me.
And what do we get here?
We just get some dude that all of a sudden is talking like Wizened Old Zen Master. He's talking like Mr. Miyagi all of a sudden for no reason,
Yeah.
just for nothing. Just
We get like the legend continues, cousin of whatever that actor's name
Right.
was. He just opened up like a fortune cookie and he's like, I need to see him alone. And so Quaid goes back there and we think, okay, there's going to be some big revelation. No, remember to wash behind your ears. Don't eat 2 hours before bed. Follow your heart, not your head. Okay, now let's go put you in a chair.
Yeah. What was the point of all that again?
This was one anticlimax after another. If there was anything that even built up, like nothing really paid off all that well.
The end with Bryan Cranston. Like, it always bugs me when the main bad guy, who is like basically like he's Tony Blair. He's the prime minister, where he like happens to be on the ground, like leading the troops in battle, which is ridiculous and would never happen.
They're all white collar masterminds.
Right. But all of a sudden they're out there with the stormtroopers. That's not. No, they don't do that. But again, in the first one though, you do have Ronnie Cox chasing down Quaid with the gun in the.
Who played a similar role in RoboCop?
Yeah,
being, Dick, you're fired.
That's a movie I've seen like 500 times, but that's all digress.
And there is the remakes coming out soon, so we will.
Seriously?
Yeah, they already have the viral marketing on YouTube. You can watch it.
I want to say this, especially if we're talking about the first one. Verhoeven, a couple of things I love so much about the original that they do away with here. One is, I think it's much more scary and threatening that when Recall is this corporation, is like a business you go to in a mall with like, you know, the theme song, like Recall, 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 Recall. It totally butchers it.
Another small character,
right?
Harry at work with the
jackhammer.
The jackhammer.
Yeah.
And just give him like 10 lines, and he's a memorable character.
Right.
Yeah. Harry, you ever hear of Recall? Oh, Recall. I got a friend who went there. He got lobotomized. 5 lines more memorable than any character in this movie.
In this one, though, they merge Venusville, and it's like an opium den. Like, they go back there, and it's like kind of a creepy Asian dude with a tattoo. But I think it's much more scary when in the first one, it's like a used car salesman is like peddling it. Like, they put you on it's the latest thing, the ego trip we call it. You'll love it. Like,
and even that guy's memorable. The way he delivers his lines, I'm pretty sure, like, again, if we do that trick of how did Paul Verhoeven direct him, probably, hey, be like a sleazy car salesman.
Yeah.
And it's super, it comes across perfectly.
I just watched the original recently. These great little Verhoevens on screen where like they do the news coverage, and they've got the voiceover of either the newscaster or Cohagen saying there were minimal casualties or like minimal resistance, and there's like footage of the armed forces like brutally murdering like the resistance like on screen, like just gutting them down, which is a total Verhoeven thing. Horrible violence is just taking part of a course as part of the
you got the funny commercials in RoboCop and then all the propaganda in Starship
Troopers, right. So there's like the kind of propaganda in this world, which we don't see. There is no satire. There doesn't have that edge to it that Verhoeven brings to his projects.
I mean, he's really commenting. It's like he's almost doing Onion before the Onion was doing it in a kind of way. Here, the filmmakers aren't necessarily trying to say anything. They're like, let's just keep it like, here's the real thing.
They're not using the platform of sci-fi to comment on the present, which is what really good science fiction can do.
Yeah.
And they're not interested in doing that. They're just interested in moving from set piece to set piece to set piece, which again, they're good set pieces. They are. It bogs down at the end. Getting back to my complaint with so when Tony Blair basically is at the end leading the troops like on the front, then he goes, so we've got Colin Farrell being held down by the Supreme Ninja Robot.
Super Ninja Robot, like
Snake Eyes style,
like death grip on his shoulder,
and he like shrugs it off like this little shimmy shake.
And like the robot started having a robot daydream, like
distracted. And then he charges. What happens? Bryan Cranston gives him the boom, the elbow, and drops him. And then all of a sudden you've got Hauser, who's like the top super secret agent, going toe-to-toe with Bryan Cranston, which makes no sense. It's retarded.
None at all.
It's, again, like in Mission Impossible with the Russian dude versus Tom Cruise. It's just stupid. It's just, it's not believable.
I could believe him having some kind of bionic implants or like a henchman who does it for him.
Yeah, but no.
Same thing when Colin Farrell rescued Jessica Biel, and they take out all the guys. She doesn't pick up a weapon. Every time there's anything like that, they just run out. There's no weapon pickup. And then of course we get the Super Ninja Stormtrooper robots. They can't hit anything either.
Right. Like, no targeting system.
No targeting system at all. And they do straight up that one shot when the army's getting ready. It's like straight out of the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Like that second Star Wars movie. It's like, okay, how many references are you pulling out here? I mean, the set pieces are great, but if there's no character emotion to influence them, they're left feeling very light. Like when that great in the first Total Recall, the famous X-ray screen. We go through it the first time to show you kind of what it is.
Right.
But then we feel the tension of he's got to escape, and they do the skeletons on each side coming at him. We really get the sense of what that is. Or when he's got to take the bug out of his nose. And here they cut his hand open, which kind of was wincy,
But it's not nearly as like spine tingling as that thing pulling out the nose, and then and even like the X-ray scene. There's no build up like in this one. It's just we got to cut through the plot points. Like here's a little toss away. Here's the woman in the yellow dress for the fans.
You think it's gonna be her,
right? And then it cuts to his little hologram thing faking out. But it's so quick. Like it's over before it even begins.
That was so again anticlimactic. It's like, okay, well I guess it's this guy, and then it's like 2 lines. Going haywire, and now action sequence.
Right, even the first one, it was like this kind of drawn out, like 2 weeks, and you're like, what? If you're watching it for the first time, like, what the hell is going on?
She's having a stroke or something.
Super cool, like thing when the face departs, and then get ready for a surprise, which doesn't make much sense.
That's kind of a goofy thing.
I love it though. It's super creepy.
But one character that anchors that in the first movie is that Richter is there and says, says that's Quaid.
Right.
So we had, now here it's just kind of generic, like, security guys there. You know, it doesn't, like, you get that conflict with Richter always chasing after him.
Right.
And it kind of helps to add the emotion.
But again, the
to
whole
it.
thing's over in like 45 seconds.
Super fast. And they just leave it as a setup so she could use it later on.
Right.
And at the end, you kind of predicted right at the end when you're like, okay, here comes the consider a divorce line. And they set it up so well.
They set up so well, and the movie to me would have been rescued. I would have given it like another star rating.
You would have given it a matinee?
I would have given it a matinee if he just said consider it a divorce. Which is so wrong, because it's just the fanboy in me wanting to be tossed a bone. But yeah, they till death do us parts. They did their share of like kind of goofy one-liners. And again, does that era even exist anymore?
It doesn't.
You know, it doesn't. And
there's only certain characters that can deliver it.
Right.
I'm sure, like, if someone else would have played Quaid in the first film, I think would have came across more dramatic. But Arnold just turns everything into one-liners. That's just his nature. He's that's his program. You know, he's a one-line like he makes everything. Even in the Last Action Hero, they kind of spoof that to be or not to be. Not to be. And he throws the dynamite.
Yes, right.
I'm glad that they cut down the one-liners here. Like, they didn't homage too much. An example here of the three-titted girl, of this being forced on there, was like she just kind of shows up here. They don't explain any genetic manipulation. And the original was the mutations.
She's a mutant. Yeah.
Anything that's extra extraordinary is going to be mutated. So we can really buy that. And here she just comes up, and she says it, and then she's like, I'll make you wish you had 3 hands. But in the first one, it was Benny saying that to her, so it was coming out of his character.
Right.
It added to the comedy, and it let it breathe. You know, that movie just lets things take their time, like you're saying with that middle scene. It's quiet. You just let people feel it.
And there is no, like, even because the first one is like action.
It's super fast.
But it still gives you time to take in between. Not to pause for the sense of pacing, but to pause for the sense of story and for plot, and to get a sense of like these are real people, as opposed to move the plot along, move it along.
Yeah, well, I know one of Verhoeven's goals, he wanted to make like one of the fastest action movies ever.
And it was.
But it still managed to hang enough on the characters that you still gave a crap about what was going on.
Right, and this one, was action, but everything in between, rather than developing, was place marking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just biding time, just doing enough to get to the next thing, rather than letting us enjoy the ride. You know, it's kind of forcing and pushing us along.
And when you don't add in that extra level of, okay, let's take Total Recall, let's see what applies to us today, and how can we take 2012 sensibilities and include it and make it inform the story. So you got to make Quaid more of, let's really feel that he feels like a small person. I mean, we're in an overpopulated, everything's being built up kind of society, which is cool. Let's really feel that he's feeling small, underappreciated, bored with his wife. Let that inform the rest of the movie and his emotional state, even more, more so. Because I think it really comes across in the original.
Because if you're going to remake this, it's like, and rather than just try to cash in on the name, it's like, you know, how do you make this movie relevant for today? I'm always interested in going back to watch those favorite movies of, like, you know, because I was like 10 or 11 or 12 when this came out.
Right.
And how much of it is my memory of it as loving it because it was a legitimately good movie, and how much because I was 12 and it was on Schwarzenegger, you know, and the three-titted girl. And it's a balance, you know, and there's stuff about, there is a legitimately smart science fiction movie with good action and great violence and really great incisive Verhoeven social commentary.
Yeah.
It's also goofy Schwarzenegger ridiculousness, which I love.
Mix of everything.
Exactly. Now, for this to work today, then, you're not going to recreate Schwarzenegger.
No one-liners and all that.
So what do? Instead? You make it smarter.
Yes.
You play up the Philip K. Dick mind
twist. You make it more Philip K. Dick.
Exactly. You make, again, like, what is real? What is Rico? You know, what's going on? You get a complete, like, Memento style, mind the entire time. But instead, they go the opposite. They dumb it down.
Right.
But they don't dumb it down enough. It's like if they're going to dumb it down, then put The Rock in it. Like, you know, put Vin Diesel in it. Like, really dumb it down and make it almost a parody of itself.
Yeah, it's almost like you bring the character of the actor into it. Instead of, like, thinking of a character who is Douglas Quaid, you just bring the personality of the star into it.
Right.
And let that be kind of what we latch on to.
We're latching on to Schwarzenegger. But here, there's nothing unfair to latch onto. Right. He's such a non-person.
You can write down a list of each character in Total Recall, and everyone stands out for some reason. Whether it's the midget dwarf, but she also has a personality.
Yeah, she's a great
Whether
personality.
it's Melina. everybody in that original has their own focus, their own. Even though that little mother-daughter mutant combination that we see on screen for like 20 seconds, and then later when they're like gasping for air, they're more powerful in terms of character than anybody here. And that's just like you said, because all we're doing here is just placeholding for the set pieces to occur. There's no emotional impact for these set pieces as a result of what's going on between the characters. Everything feels disjointed. It's so boring. You're just kind of just waiting for stuff to happen. Like, okay.
The action scenes for the first two acts, the chase stuff is all really good. The only action thing I liked in the last act was when they're going through the core on the fall, and then the gravity reverses.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was a cool idea. But other than that one thing, the explosions, and then like him and Bryan Cranston going toe to toe was stupid, and then like.
And you don't even feel in the original. You really felt that Cohagen and Hauser, like Cohagen cared about Hauser, and he was upset when he gave Richter the order to kill him.
Yeah, remember he smashed his aquarium.
Yeah, the fish bowl and the goldfish. You know,
he was upset,
and he really wanted him. He's like, we're going to be back in place. I'm going to give you Melina.
Here's another thing about that they kind of like just kind of dumb down or switch out for no reason. In the original, it's quite clear that Hauser was in on it the whole time.
Yes.
Like, he is all his idea, really.
He's the one who came up with it.
Whereas in this one, they make it seem like Cohagen was behind it all, and he programmed Hauser, and Hauser didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
Because they talk about bringing Hauser back to who he was beforehand, as in, like, Hauser really thought he was going over the other side. In the first one, it's quite clear, no, Hauser's in it the entire time.
They do that awesome video.
They're like buddy. Like,
because you'll be bosom buddies with Cohagen. And who is it this time? My mother? Hey, Hauser.
Hey, Hauser.
If you're seeing this, Quado is dead and the resistance is taken out, and it's all because of you. But that's my body you got, and I want it back. They totally establish in that one, and you really care at the end with that battle between Cohagen and Hauser. But here, Cohagen, Bryan Cranston just says, we were friends, or I cared about you. It's just like a throwaway line. You never feel it at all.
Yeah.
Usually any industry that's been around 10, 20, 30, 50 years usually makes more superior product as they go along. Is Hollywood one of the few examples of an industry that after 100 years, you really can't say that their product is any better, or maybe nowadays even worse than it was when it first started out or when it reached its pinnacle?
I disagree with that statement. I think
aside from the technical aspect of it.
I know the main statement I disagree with is saying that a company that's been around 100 years makes a superior product in general. All companies that have been around that long have found a way to make the most profitable products with the cheapest investments.
Right.
That's what they figure out how to do, and that's what Hollywood's done.
Yeah.
That's what automobile makers done. That's what electronics do.
Cars nowadays are better than they were 100 years ago.
Right, but nothing lasts.
Planes are better than they were.
Right, but that's technical, I guess. But like nothing lasts though. It's like you can't. It used to have like repairmen. You used to repair things.
Right.
Everything's disposable now.
Right. Let's even take it to more personal. If you were practicing meditation for 100 years, martial arts for 100 years, hopefully you're a pretty badass martial artist.
Well, but what's your goal? Is it to improve the craft or is it to improve the products?
Okay.
Those are two different questions.
So it's an industry, and the goal is to improve profit.
Right.
So by improving profit does not necessarily mean it equals great product.
Not at all. We've talked about this. Just because something is great doesn't mean it'll be a financial success.
Right.
And just because something's a financial success doesn't mean it's any good.
Okay.
Again, especially with the foreign markets. With the foreign markets, big boom equals big bucks. You know.
That's where bigger boom equals bigger bucks.
Bigger bucks. Yeah, exactly. But no, I'm serious though. It's like
it's only 1 in the morning, by the way. It's
not totally slap happy. Exactly. But, so it doesn't really matter how good something is. Like again, Mission Impossible 4 was a great movie. Would it have done any better if it wasn't any good at all? I don't know if that makes a difference anymore.
Well, Total Recall right now is actually getting hammered at the box office.
Okay.
It has not made a lot of money.
Okay. It's gotten pretty good, bad reviews.
Yeah, and it's gotten like 30%, 20-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, if it was a great movie, would it possibly be making more money? Yeah, I think if Rotten Tomatoes says it gets 90%, I feel that more people turn out for it.
Yeah.
I feel that if it takes, let's say darker, but kind of a more Philip K. Dick-y, intelligent, like what is the nature of memory, reality, and all that, I think it becomes something that can really stand alone. It can really,
and gets people to go repeat viewings and stuff. No, that's true. That is true. But then, are they thinking about that?
Not getting too much off subject, I guess if they're doing sequels, Pirates 1, 2, 3, a little bit of a different beast than a remake. It's always a struggle between commercial and art, and I think just nowadays the pendulum is swung way too much in the commercials.
Well, again, but though on the flip side, though, as part of that, though, I think the art is getting better, though, on some levels. Like, I think Avengers compared to, what would you even compare that to? Well, I mean, the level of storytelling and character and spectacle.
Right, it blends everything well.
What is that? Where does that exist elsewhere? Like, I think Dark Knight is better than Batman Returns on every level.
Batman Returns, the Tim Burton Batman.
The Tim Burton, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
In terms of drama, things like Blue Valentine, devastating. Yeah. And you didn't see, I mean, even in the golden era of
Wonderful.
70s, the honesty, the brutality in that.
I feel like that was a very 70s-ish inspired kind of, that's the kind of thing they went for.
Yeah.
I think the difference today now is, like, in the 70s, that would have been a mainstream release, like a bigger release, and now it's a independent AMC or Netflix streaming. Mainstream 3,000 theater releases, which most people see, and which really informs kind of the
national dialogue, or the sense of culture,
sense of movie kind of intelligence. Those are the things that we're seeing.
Yeah, because they homogenize everything. They put everything at PG-13. They dumb down everything to mass market as much as possible, and to give to the foreign markets as much as possible. So but we are getting amazing cinema. It's just being kind of shunted off to the independent theaters. It's still, but it's out there though. At least it exists on the fringes. You know,
it's out
and
there.
It will still continue to exist.
The danger is that back in the day, I think the 70s were kind of an offshoot of, in the 50s and 60s you had on the lot, studio lot. There used to be story departments, right? And they used to just, here's how you get trained to write stories. Once anyone can make a movie now, and it's really no one to check and balance things, the danger is that you lose that expertise. It's like you're going to a martial arts school that's being taught by a student of the student of the student of Bruce Lee, instead of Bruce Lee himself, and you're not getting the direct communication the way that it potentially could be. I would say big blockbuster rides, this might be one of the most disappointing summers for me. We've had The Dark Knight Rises, which is good, and Avengers, but we're talking about Spider-Man. We're talking about right now Total Recall, Prometheus, which I was so
disappointed.
Prometheus to me, that was like a signal that there's something wrong. We got writers from Lost, we got Ridley Scott, and we still can't make it work. That's like 3 huge misses right there. And even The Dark Knight's having its plot holes revealed the more people are analyzing it. So what's going on here? Is there too much pressure, too much just homogenizing, too much let's just get a lot of people to see it and don't really challenge us with anything more character and story-wise,
And again, I think, especially when if we're talking blockbuster movie making, I think the good stuff can happen, but it's almost, I don't want to say by accident, but it's not on purpose either. You know what I mean? It's like they just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. And like, Christopher Nolan, that's stuck. Josh Whedon, that's stuck. Where they're just more likely to throw a Brett Ratner or a Michael Bay, or who is the guy, Len Wiseman, and see how that goes.
It's like you've proven you can direct an action movie, bring it under budget, bring it in on time. The thing with the original Total Recall, what spurred that on to be created? What made Total Recall, the 1990 movie, be created? No TV show, no previous film, just an obscure Philip K. Dick story. By that time, he really hadn't been blown up and like, let's adapt all this stuff.
Everything is done. There was Blade Runner, and that was about, I'm trying to think of anything else major.
And Blade Runner really wasn't this, it got its cult following by then.
It wasn't until the director's cut came out that it was even...
All you had was Ron Shusett, who had written some respectable movies, so he had the rights to the story, and he's like, here's an idea. And Paul Verhoeven being like, hey, I want to continue the gory stuff, which... That's another thing, just the bloodlust of Total Recall.
Yes.
And all of his movies.
Following RoboCop and Starship Troopers.
And again, the Human Shield and all those
Where's
great
the Human Shield?
But that belongs in 1990 Total Recall. Don't transfer it over
That's
here.
True. It's not going to, They're right.
It's that spark of creativity that made the first Total Recall came up. It was a summer movie, it was an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and it was a great movie.
And it was a smart movie.
It was a smart movie. So there's no excuse for it not to happen other than it's too much work, and why bother if we're getting rewarded for it by putting in half the effort?
I think they're afraid that if they made too smart a movie, it wouldn't do as well. I think that's a legitimate fear. That if they actually try to challenge the audience in any respect, and God forbid, give a plot with no clear cut, black or white, this is what happened ending, people will be pissed off, or like people will be angry. You know what I mean? Like they need everything to be summed up and wrapped up so tightly. And
it's not like we can't see it again in 3 seconds. It'll be on Redbox or Netflix, or I mean, we'll be able to watch it over and over. Not like a movie in the 60s where we watch it once and we can't see it for like 10 years. You know, what was the ending? Giving it an obscure ending back in the day was really risky because you piss people off. I was not expecting much from this movie, but I was hoping for more. It proved that we are at the top of our game when it comes to visuals.
Great looking movie. I like the chase sequences from the first 2 acts. Like definitely a lot of fun.
And I enjoyed the setting up of the world for the first 15-20 minutes here. I think it really brought up some cool issues. I love the way that the cities look, but if you don't have that main character that can take us in with them and get bigger ideas going, it's just going to be... Basically, this is just like a porn. You're just fast-forwarding for the set pieces. You're fast-forwarding to get to the good stuff.
In terms of mind potential, this could be like an Inception-like level.
Or David Cronenberg. Give me David Cronenberg or someone.
Well, put Verhoeven back behind the camera.
Yeah.
You know, and get someone else in the script.
Give him access to these effects and everything.
Seriously. What's Verhoeven up to these days?
I think everyone has their peak, and Verhoeven had that nice run of from RoboCop to Starship Troopers where he had something to say, man, and he wanted to say it. Sometimes you have to give a good idea like this to someone who has something to say. The director here, he can direct action. He knows how to make a big budget film, but he doesn't have anything to say.
He wasn't interested in doing anything beyond that.
Right.
No one involved in the project was at all.
Absolutely.
How could this movie have succeeded?
It's a success right now at 50% because the visuals really one up what Total Recall did.
Right.
But at the same time, Total Recall had inventiveness. To everybody in the Mutant City and Mars. Even the bloody action sequences, the human shield, the head split, the 2-week head thing, the x-ray machine. If they said, okay, we're going to give you something you've never seen before, and we're just going to do it in a very creative way. Everything always comes down for me to character. I want to know Cohagen's clear motivation, make him more of a person. I want to know why Kate Beckinsale wants to kill this guy so bad. What's her... Make her a human, you know? Like, at least Richter had a wife.
As opposed to just super, like, she was like the T3.
T3, you know?
The
hottie Terminator, like, just running around. The world has to be thought through all the way. So we have Mars. Cohagen just wants a tribinium. He's just using us. Here's why the rebels are fighting. Show us more of that, the colony, you know? How do the people feel? You got to take the time to do that instead of just breezing things over. And it ultimately comes down to Quaid. He's got to care about what happens to him every single time, and Colin Farrell does not deliver any kind of characterization, you know, at all. And it's a lot to ask for, I guess, but...
Too much. How dare you.
How dare... So, if StoryCorp were to be given a Hauser recording of something, it would be from us. We would give it to them. They'd press the button, and it would be saying, StoryCorp, you can make great movies. You've done it in the past. All you need to do is get your ass to film school. Get your ass to film school. Get your ass to film school. With that, rental-worthy film disappointment.
You know what I gotta do right now? I'm gonna go watch Running Man. I gotta do it.
Nothing gets the taste of a bad remake out.
Then going back to the source.
Then going to the original, baby. Going to the original.
Running Man. I'm gonna do Predator, a little commando action.
They need to do a Arnie all-day festival like they do a Dark Knight thing, like a 5-movie thing.
I would love to go see that.
Our next review will be The Expendables. Yes. That comes out August 17th.
Yes.
So until then, follow us all over the internet at our various websites. Always remember that StoryCorp gives us more of what we pay for, so let's choose our movies wisely. And until later, long live good movies.